Afternoon. Life taught me three things above all others. The Lord God Almighty is our salvation and the source of our grace. No one is alone, and every child needs hope because every child is, God willing, going to grow into an adult. And if you get to be a grown man and you've lost your hope, well, then not only is that a sad affair, but things can go sideways. Now, from whence do I speak? Because of all the many things that I have to be proud of, I think what gave me the most pride and pleasure in my 77 years of life was two things I did in my last 12 years. As soon as the Great War ended and my people were freed, I started the first school for colored children in my home. Because an educated child is a child that can find hope. I also started one of the churches in Columbia that was just for colored folks. What we started, also in my house, would eventually become what is today's Second Missionary Baptist Church on the corner of 4th Street and Broadway. Now, Mr. Shannon was the president of Louisiana College, and then he became the president of Bacon College in Harrodsburg, Kentucky. When we moved to Kentucky, we were there for 10 years, and it wasn't easy making a living in Kentucky, even as a free man. You see, I was born in Baton Rouge in 1807, and my name is John Baptiste Lange. I was born to a Mexican father and a French Creole mother, born a French citizen. A year before the Louisiana Purchase, I was a free man, and I stayed a free man for the rest of my life. But don't think that there weren't 500 times when I feared that my status as a free man of color was in jeopardy. So that when I met my future wife, Louisa, she was a slave girl, and she was owned by John Shannon. Although she was owned by him, I loved her, and I did not allow her being a slave to stop me from marrying her. So, as I said before, Mr. Shannon was the president of Louisiana College and then became the president of Bacon College, which meant I had to move to Kentucky so that I could be close to my wife. Now, I never could have imagined what would happen and take place in 1850. Mr. Shannon was asked to become the second president of an almost new college, the University of Missouri, in a place called Columbia. So I followed them to Columbia because I was determined to stay close to Louisa and our children. So, you know, Mr. Shannon and I had sort of a gentleman's agreement for years. He would allow me to come around to my wife, and so that I could make sure that she and my children were okay. Now, here's something that the history books probably won't tell you. You are looking at the man who opened the first grocery store in Columbia with fresh meat and produce. Yes, sir. My first place was on the corner of 4th and Cherry, when that was just an open marketplace and a patch of meadow down near Flatbatch Creek. My next place, and later I opened Columbia's first dairy with home delivery of milk and butter. Yes, that was down the hill from David Gordon's, right next to Hinkton's Creek, which is now East Broadway. I tell you, my life in Colombia was anything but dull as a merchant. During the war, I would get out into the countryside, buy livestock, process it, and sell it to the Missouri Federal Militia. All the while straddling the two worlds that existed in Colombia, the world of my people, which were all owned property, and the world of the privileged white man and a merchant. Well, getting out into the countryside was a risk for me as a man of color, but I had to do it. I had to make a living. Louisa and I had 16 children. Yes, sir. And you know, I am proud of every single one of them. But there is one that you might know better than others. John Lange Jr. would not only become this country's best road engineer and contractor, he laid more road in this country that in the 1800s, more than any of us could imagine that a black man would have the chance to do. But not only that, he became the manager of John William Blind Boone. Well, I guess I've talked for a piece now, and I should say goodbye. But life has taught me that it was God's grace that allowed me to meet and marry Louisa and have 16 children. And I know for sure that my purpose for living was to make sure that the young ones in our community would receive an education so that they could have hope for a better future. Yes, educate, educate, educate. I thank you, and God bless all of you.